I've had a lot of death in my family, a lot of sickness, between all my family members as well as close family and wife and things like that have happened. And I think because life's so fragile, you just don't know what'll happen tomorrow. And I hate that thought of the one person you need will be the one person you burnt the bridge with. To me, it just rings so true that you can do something one day that impacts someone tomorrow that you actually need, and to have to come back with your tail between your legs because you were an arse, to me just does not make sense. I'd much prefer to have 3,000 friends and one enemy than 3,000 enemies and one friend, because to me that would just be a miserable life.
Tim, epic to have you here with the others at Synthesis, and we've been talking a lot about you guys all have amazing mindsets around bettering the business, bettering yourselves, and the outcome. I love everyone is orientated towards, that's going to bring a better outcome for our team and for your clients.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who, ideally, you don't want them to have to go through what you've gone through to have that realization? What have you sort of seen and learned that could help someone have that realization and grow in that perspective without hopefully having to go through hardship?
I think if you go and sit on the corner of Brisbane city streets or in a mall or something, you look at the diversity in people that walk around. You've got people that are homeless. You've got young kids that have no care in the world whatsoever, and parents trying to shut them down every 5 seconds. You've got old people that are walking along that are half crippled that are just trying to get their groceries. If you look at that life cycle of where people start and where they finish, at some point you've got to come to some realization that, what are we all here for? There's no point in yelling and arguing and stressing. If anything, all of the stuff that I'm reading at the moment, that empathy is probably the biggest healer in the world, whether that be your family or someone else's family or something else that you can do for somebody else you don't even know. And for some reason it seems that if you help 3 people, in that one day of need, that, someone is able to provide you some form of love or help or service that you didn't realise that was available in the world. So I think when you look at the big picture and we look at the life cycle, humility and sympathy and those things are really something that the world needs at the moment, even in business. I've changed over the last 12 months from trying to be someone that I wasn't to be someone that I truly believe that I can still have a good heart and I can reprimand my staff with a good heart and say, look, this is genuine. I'm just disappointed more than anything else. Not, you didn't do this right and I'm unhappy with this and rah, rah, rah. You can just say, look, it just... I thought we were on the same page and maybe we're not, and I'm just a bit unhappy about it and it makes me upset. Everyone else seems to be happy and you're not. It's a good way to start a conversation, to have an honest conversation with someone rather than, a rah, 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 dictatorship sort of conversation. There's enough of that in the world. So, I think, just being able to see the life cycle of a person gives you an understanding that you don't have to always be nasty or an arse just to get a job done. You can do it other ways. And those people will actually work harder, stay longer and do a better job for you. And it's not always about money, which is what I thought it was. As you grow up, when you get 20s to 30s, sometimes you think it's all about, I want to make as much as possible. But if you're happy and you turn up every day to work and you've got a great bunch of people that you work with and you can laugh and, you can have a beer together occasionally and you can do those things. And that to me just shows such a better way of life than turning up, getting paid a lot of money, but hating getting out of bed every day and hating getting home and hating being in traffic. And, that then extends into anxiety and depression and drinking and, all those things that our industry sometimes gets in it. So just be humble.
One thing that you raise and are really passionate about is this idea of, okay, well, as a business, we're looking at creating efficiencies to bring something continually better and growing. And one topic that comes up is, well, as you start doing that, where can you cut costs? You have a different take on that, which I really, really like. Can you maybe jump further into that?
Yeah. For me, it's about getting back value.
Yeah.
If I look at businesses and the way that they're managed these days, a lot of the big corporates are very much about making sure that the costs stay here, return for, their investors, et cetera, et cetera. I also look at a business model and think if there's someone smarter, better, more creative than me to do something, that I should at least investigate that rather than try and do everything myself. Obviously, we went to guys like you for marketing. We've got some great staff. We've invested heavily to make sure that the staff deliver. But then it comes down to other parts of our business, which is things like suppliers, contractors, where we get our power from, where we pay our phone bills from, and those sorts of things. And it's looking at how far do you trim the fat before you're creating a different beast. I always wanted to be able to be proud of the houses that I drove past, the local businesses that we'd been part of that had worked for us for a long time. I like having the subby party where the guys come along and I don't feel sheepish about hiding behind the curtains that,
Yeah.
you know, I've been an arse all year,
Yeah.
but still being able to manage a successful business. So for me, it's probably just about making sure that the decisions that are made are looking at the value that
Yeah.
comes with that decision. Yes, I can make a decision to buy a cheaper floor covering. Yes, I
Yeah.
can make a decision to get a cheaper frame. Yes, I can make a decision to get a cheaper tiler. But what in the long term does that do to the business that's taken 30 years to build now?
Yeah.
So I think at the moment what we're trying to do is get a really good understanding of where you're able to trim some fat
Yeah.
economically and
Yeah.
where it's worth investing the time and money in a better business to be able to deliver a better result. I think over the last 5 years we've made some good decisions on where we put that and how we do that.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot less maintenance than we've ever had on our homes. We've got a lot more happier clients than we've ever had before.
Yeah.
We get a lot less phone calls in our office than we ever used to during the building process as well as
Yeah.
after the process. So I find those decisions have made a big impact on where we are now.
I still remember the story you told me maybe 2 years ago when, you know, we had crazy weather, storms, and I would be talking to a lot of our builders having, well, not necessarily our builders,
right, I
but just
remember
builders in the
I do,
industry,
yeah.
you know, and, you know, weather's having this effect and, you know, clients are grumpy and they're getting all these calls and they're trying to put out fires and the weather's affecting them. And then when you and I caught up, and I was like, how's things going? You know, with all this weather, you know, how many, you're doing so many builds, you've got so many clients, you know, over history.
Yeah.
You know, how many people are calling you with this rain? And, you know, and you're like, one. And it was because an old lady literally couldn't climb up and clear her gutters
Yeah.
of the leaves. And then you went a step further and helped organise someone to just go out there and just help her with it and offer her a solution. That way, you know, you're big on opportunity and solutions. On, would you like me to organise this long term? Because I can clearly see it. You know,
Yes,
it's a need.
It's an issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also that I've learned to be a lot more proactive rather than reactive. I think if people know what's going on, your trades know what's going on, your staff know what's going on, they don't ask because they don't need to because they're told everything. We tend to be a lot more full disclosure on how the business operates, what we want to be, who we want to be, who we work with. And again, this comes back to value within those subcontractors and the suppliers and things like that, because our business obviously heavily relies on a lot of other people to do their job correctly.
Yeah.
So you can go, all right, I can save $100 and use this guy, or I can spend an extra 100 and use this guy, know that I'm not going to have a problem, or if I do, this guy's going to back me as well.
Yeah.
So as you start to do that, your clients then realise what type of operator you are and which businesses you work with and those sorts of things. And I mean, the people that have built with us a lot will come back and ask for the same contractors. And I mean, if I said, no, I'll let him go 12 months ago, no, he doesn't work here anymore, I'll let him go 2 years ago, no, he doesn't work here, it's 3 years ago, I'll let go of him, you know, they'd be going, you know, what sort of outfit is this?
Yeah. Because how long, like your team, internal team, how long have some of them been working with you for?
One's been 19 years, nearly longer than I've been there, to be honest. And then most of the others have all got long service, so
Okay.
they've all been there 10 plus.
Yeah.
There might be 2 or 3 that are younger than that, but
Yeah.
really majority of them are older, and that's because we chose experience
Yeah.
over trying to find someone at a standard regular rate and put lots of those people
Yeah.
on where we have lots of problems, and that makes my life easier. The clients understand who they are, and when people come back 4 or 5 times and you've got the same bloke in the office and the same painter, like the painter that's retiring this year has done 30 years with our business, so he was there really at the start and he's only just retiring this year and decided to build himself a house with us. And you look at that and go, you know, like, how do I replace that? Like, you know, I've got guys that have been there 19 years and 8 years and 7 years and stuff like that, but you know what you can learn in 30 years. I mean, a painting, you would think you don't have to learn too much to be able to paint a house, but you've got a lot of experience there in 30 years. You know, even colour choices and walls and how you
Yeah.
would apply this to that and
Yeah.
warranty. You know, this guy still works Saturdays. You know, so that was a
He obviously
mindset.
enjoys what he...
Yeah, he does. He
Yeah.
does. But it was a mindset as well.
Yeah.
So when you got guys that have that mindset that work for a business that still has that same mindset, then all of a sudden you end up with an outstanding product. So
Hearing that, I want to ask you, how important is it to have the right network around you when it comes to...
well, yeah, like I think without it we wouldn't have a business.
Yeah.
That is a really good question, because the people that I've put in place within our business are there because they wholeheartedly believe in the business and they can be trusted. You know, like those guys that work those 9-day fortnights that start at 7:30, I'll still turn up at 7:20 and their cars are still there before me.
Yeah.
You know, these people love coming to work, they work hard, they do a good job, and they're rewarded. You know, that the whole purpose of this is to make sure that these people want to come to work every day and do those same sorts of things. So we want to make sure that that's the mindset behind employing, and again, it extends down to those contractors and those suppliers. That where do you invest that time? It should be invested in the right people at the right time for our business model, and that's what we're trying to do.
I like that. I really like that.
I think also probably one more thing is that you can never stop learning.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, the moment you think you're at the top, you're not.
Yeah.
Someone else will just come and walk straight over the top of you. I mean, there's some big players in our marketplace. You've got guys like the Metricon and the GJ Gardners and all of those sorts of things that are consistently, you know, there's AI coming and all these things coming to our marketplace. And if you're just the guy that sits in the corner waiting for that client to ring and expecting to do a good job, you'll get absolutely swallowed up by the big fellas. So the whole purpose of using good business is to ensure that when they don't, that we have that market edge. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's a big thing. And I still remember not the first time, we had already met in person. I think you came down for story development with us, and then you came to one of our Brisbane workshops.
Yeah.
And you turned up in a 3-piece suit. Chris actually thought you were going to be turning up in a 3-piece suit today.
Yeah, you're right.
I remember, you know, one question was, you know, why'd you jump in a 3-piece suit?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, you can always dress down, but you can't dress up.
Yeah, first impressions.
And I really, really respected that. And then the other one, I was like, hey, this business of yours has been going for 30 years. You've taken it, like you've just gone doof, doof, doof in terms of where you've taken it.
Yeah.
Why do you still turn up to workshops like this? Why do you, your answer was...
Yeah, I think you will eventually. If you don't keep educating yourself and keep learning, then eventually you'll just get swallowed up by someone else.
Yeah.
There's so many things that I've learned, and it might only be one tiny little point that I'll pick up. And you know, these synthesis groups and those sorts of things are all part of making sure you're always having the best of the best together. And eventually, before you know it, you turn around after 12 months and you are so far in front of the competition. It's not funny. And you got other people that have still got 30 years worth of experience to pick up, let alone know their marketing, let alone knowing their analytics, let alone having the right staff, let alone using the right contractors and reducing their maintenance, reducing their overheads, doing all of those sorts of things. You know, some of those guys are just starting, but you just can't learn it any other way. And if you're not prepared to invest in yourself, then, you know, you will eventually not have a business.
The other thing I really like, I think which goes hand in hand with this always educating, is despite what you've achieved, I have never got any sense of ego from you. And I think of like a lot of the people I know in terms of what you have achieved and accomplished and what you've overcome, not that anyone has a right to, but of all people, I think, you know, you could definitely walk around, you know, with that confidence, like, you know, well, look what I've done. But you always are humble. You always ask questions. You're always one of the best listeners. You know, you wait for someone to ask a question rather than just talking in a group. It's really, really cool to see.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll try and get my head to shrink down a little bit now.
Tim, thank you very much.
Welcome,
thank you for
mate.
sharing
Thank you.
that.
Awesome.